Welcome to the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, where it is never too early for fantasy football. My name is Jeff.
And I'm Alex.
As always, thank you for downloading, listening, liking, and commenting on our podcast videos. Please join our community by subscribing to us on the socials. Our handle on all platforms is at N2E Fantasy. We are also available on all major podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy. Alex, what do we have on today's show?
On this episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, we are doing our Week 16 preview of the 2024 NFL season, starting with the Thursday night matchup, the crucial AFC West showdown between the Broncos and the Chargers. It's at the Chargers, so there may be a little bit of a bump that way, Jeff, but who do you have in this one?
So, as I said, and we're probably going to focus a little bit less on starts and sits right now because we're down to the last four teams in fantasy playoffs in most leagues. So, if you don't know who to start and sit by now, I don't know if we can really help you too much there. But if there's somebody that sticks out, we'll mention them. But I can't, with a good conscience, pick the Chargers right now, especially on a short week. So I'm going to go the Broncos in this matchup. I think without the run game, I think the Chargers are at a disadvantage in this game. And I think this matchup here is for the 6 and the 7 seed. I think both of these are playoff teams at this point, right?
Yes.
So that could change up a little bit. If we could get to the Broncos to the 6 seed and keep the Steelers as a division winner, then potentially you could get the Broncos and the Steelers in week 1, which you know that I've been drooling about a Russ versus Peyton matchup.
Yeah. I think that would be very interesting. I think the Chargers versus the Baltimore Ravens would also be an interesting matchup too. The Harbaughs again. So a lot of storylines that could potentially pop up. The only team that could potentially get knocked out of the playoffs for the AFC at this point is the Chargers if they continue losing. But ultimately, I think I agree with you here. The Broncos should win despite the Chargers having the line going their way right now. I think that Bo Nix and Sean Payton can figure out a way to win despite the Chargers' pass rush and defense. I think the Chargers are getting a boost with Denzel Perryman probably playing this week as well. But without a run game, it's going to be hard for them to get a win. Broncos have been winning without a run game pretty much all season. So give me the Broncos in this one in a tough, probably low-scoring matchup.
Absolutely. And let's not forget what the Broncos did here, because this matchup was originally supposed to be the Browns at the Bengals on Thursday night. The Broncos had to approve a second road playoff game, or Thursday night game, sorry, got playoffs on the mind. And the Broncos looked at the schedule and realized they play the Bengals next week. And they realized that they would rather have the Bengals on 7 days rest instead of 10 days rest and give themselves 10 days rest instead of 7 days rest. So this was like a little chess move by Sean Payton, I would believe. He was the one that made the call on this.
Well, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out. See if it works for him. All right. So next we have the Texans at the Chiefs. And now I'm kind of torn here, Jeff, because if Mahomes is out, the Texans actually have a chance to win this game.
Are you kidding me? Come on. They're starting Carson Wentz, if not. We all know how I feel about Carson Wentz.
Both teams look rough on offense. Both teams' defenses are still playing very good. It's in Arrowhead. That's going to make it tough. I'm going to go Texans in this one. If it bites me in the butt, at least I went with my hometown team.
And I'm going to go with the Chiefs in this matchup. I think that Chris Jones is going to be really hard for the Texans to stop, and I think he's going to disrupt that entire pass game.
All right. Entirely possible. So let's move on to a divisional matchup here for the AFC North. I don't even know if that's the next. Yep. AFC North matchup here between the Steelers on the road at the Ravens. Ravens have historically had a bad matchup between them and the Steelers. I think this one, though, if Pickens isn't ready to go, I think the Ravens can pull off the victory. They have Lamar Jackson playing at an MVP level. So I'm going Baltimore, and I think this will be a very tough bruiser of a game.
I agree. I think it'll be decided by less than one full score, like usual. Probably less than 3 points, like usual. And give me the Ravens in this matchup. And I really hope Justin Tucker has figured out something at this point, because those 3 points could come off of his leg.
Is that a dig at anyone who might have cut Justin Tucker at this point?
I don't blame anyone for cutting Justin Tucker. It's just a surprise to me, because he was the fantasy kicker to own the last 7 years, and now all of a sudden he's being cut off teams. It's a weird feeling. He was automatic. You set it and forget it, and that's why you drafted him before the last round.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think if anyone's winning with their legs, that would be the Steelers with Boswell, who's the fantasy #1 kicker this year, which is kind of
He's kicking
surprising.
butt. What can I say? But
Yep.
this next matchup does not appear to have any playoff implications here, and the Cardinals at the Panthers. This matchup is going to be very close. I expect Carolina to keep it very close, but in the end, I think that the Cardinals are playing with a little bit more right now, and I think they have a little bit more firepower on offense. So I am going to go ahead and pick the Cardinals in this one.
I think you're wrong about the playoff implications. Right now, the NFC West, the leading team is the Rams at 8-6, with Seattle at 8-6, Arizona 7-7. So one game back. If they can close out all of their games and one of the other two loses a game, they could potentially end up in the playoffs through tiebreaker rules, or if the other two teams lose 2 games and they win all 3, then they could be in. So I expect the Arizona to go for it, and I expect Arizona to win this one. They are a little bit better than Carolina at this point, although I like Carolina for a long-term rebuild. I like them building up each year and potentially competing next year or the year after. So give me Arizona this year.
So right now the Cardinals are 4.5 point favorites. That would be very tempting for me to pick Carolina, because I think they keep it a little bit closer than 4.5 points. But yeah, I think the Cardinals do edge this one out.
When I wanted to pick Carolina, every time I picked Carolina, I feel like they've lost. So
Well, they've
I'm
only won 3 games this year, so that's pretty
uh,
likely.
and those are probably ones I didn't even pick for them. So let's move on to the Browns at the Bengals. Bengals holding off hope that maybe the Chargers will lose out and they can maybe squeak in. Don't know if that's likely at this point, but I certainly like Cincy over the Browns. Browns starting DTR this week. I don't expect he'll be that much of an improvement over Winston, if at all. And Cincy is very much still playing very good on offense, so I expect them to continue that trend and win.
Yeah, I fully expect the Bengals to win as well. The Bengals would have to win out, and the Chargers would have to lose out, because the Chargers have the head-to-head tiebreaker against the Bengals as well, because they beat them in November.
All right, quick and easy. We can go to the Lions at the Bears, and this is one preseason I thought might be tougher for the Lions. They are very, very banged up, but the way the offense is playing for the Bears, I have to go with Detroit in this one. It may not be as high scoring as this last week against the Bills, but I expect the Lions to win this one.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. It'll be interesting to see how the Lions replace David Montgomery's production. We'll see what happens in this particular matchup. I'm not sure any Brown is startable right now because of DTR, so keep that in mind as well going into week 2 of the fantasy playoffs. But yeah, not much more to say about this. The Lions should get back on the winning record here, and if Minnesota and Detroit continue to win out, then that last matchup of the season will be for the division crown, which is insane, and it should be the Sunday night football game in my opinion. But we'll see which game gets marked the Sunday night football game that week, because there's no times, or there's dates already nailed out for that, but no times nailed out for that last week of the season.
All right. Rams at the Jets, Jeff. We have Aaron Rodgers that randomly decided to show up this past week in a game that meant nothing. Then we had the Rams that won a very tough Thursday night matchup against a division rival in the 49ers. Rams trying to hold on to that lead. I expect the Rams to win. The Jets are a complete disaster. It might still be a close game, but give me the Rams.
Man, yeah, I think the Rams have the most firepower in this game. I would go ahead and start Kupp, even though he had a bad game last week, and I know that he's dead to you, Alex, but I would go ahead and still start Cooper Kupp in this matchup, and I would start Puka, of course, as well, in case anyone was wondering. But yeah, give me the Rams in this matchup. They have way too much to play for at this point.
Okay. I thought you would appreciate getting to do the Bills this week, Jeff. So I'll let you do the next matchup.
Absolutely. You've taken the lead on a lot of these this week, and I'm sure our listeners will point that out. But the Bills host the Patriots this week. It should be a little bit colder of a matchup. No indoor matchup for the Bills. But I think this will be a very easy matchup for Josh Allen and the Bills. And go ahead and give me the Bills in this matchup.
I'm going to go with Drake May and the... No, excuse
I marked you
going with
down too
Buffalo.
late.
No, I'm going with Buffalo.
All right. So we got the Giants at the Falcons in the next matchup here. We got Michael Penix Jr. versus Drew Lock. Let me go with the Falcons in this matchup because I don't think highly of Drew Lock at this current point, but the Falcons can't be any worse than they've been lately. So
I remember at the beginning of the season, you were saying Drew Lock is going to steal the starting job from Daniel Jones.
He should have, but it didn't work out the way that I had it planned.
I'm obviously going the Falcons as well. They have too many weapons to lose this game, and I agree. Penix, even if he struggles, is going to be better than what Kirk Cousins has done the past 5 weeks. So give me Atlanta for this one.
Absolutely. And so the next matchup is the Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Commanders. This is going to be another great game. We have a great game with the Steelers and the Ravens. We also have this great game here. I think overall that the Eagles have a little bit more on offense. So I'm going to go the Eagles in this matchup, but do keep an eye out on Barkley's ankle. I know it was a little banged up from last week as well.
I'm going to go with the Eagles on this one as well, but I'm going to also highlight that the Eagles defense is playing very well. They've got a very good secondary and a very, very, very good front four on their defense. I think they're going to cause problems for Daniels, and I think that they're going to get that W this week and push for the number 1 spot in the NFC.
All right. So we can move on to the next matchup, the Titans at the Colts. We have Mason Rudolph versus Anthony Richardson for now. But in this matchup, the Colts still believe somewhere deep down that they have a little bit of a shot left on the season. I don't believe in Mason Rudolph as much as most folks do, especially in the Titans' house. I am going to go the Colts in this matchup and believe that they will continue to try to make a push for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think this game is going to come down to potentially the turnover battle. The Colts are better on paper across the board than the Titans. Titans have some key defensive players that are out, but I'm going to go the Colts. I think that they will try to focus on the ground game in this one and try to turn their season around. So I'm going Colts over Titans. Titans don't have much to play for.
I would agree, and the Titans do appear to be one of those teams that are eyeing their next quarterback, so it does not behoove them to win too much at this point.
All right. We have Vikings at Seahawks, currently 2 teams in the playoff race. Seahawks are just outside, but they can easily get inside if they get a victory over the Vikings here. I'm not sure it'll happen. I know it's in Seattle. Sam Darnold has struggled a little bit this past week, but I still think the Vikings have enough firepower to overcome the Seahawks. We don't know the status of Geno Smith this week either. We don't know the status of Kenneth Walker either. So those are 2 things to keep an eye on. It would be hard for me to feel good about starting Charbonnet against this Vikings defense. So I think you have to go with Minnesota in this matchup.
Yeah, and I will be going with Minnesota in this matchup as well. I think we only have one difference so far with a week full of games, and you picked your hometown Houston over Kansas City, and that was our only difference so far. Seems a pretty chalky week so far. But this should be a good matchup. Both teams are in playoff contention. Obviously, the Vikings are already in, but the Seahawks are still clawing for a shot into the playoffs. But the next game, no playoff implications, but it's the 2-12 Raiders hosting the 3-11 Jaguars. So this game right here has a little bit of consideration for the number one overall pick. I think that the Raiders are going back to Aiden O'Connell in this matchup, which is going to prove to be a mistake. And I think the Raiders do pull out the win in this matchup with Aiden O'Connell. So give me the Raiders in this matchup.
I am very much on the fence, and so are the odds makers. It's currently a 1 point advantage to the Raiders, which, seeing how it's at home, indicates most people think the Jaguars are better at this point in the week. I'm going to go with the Jaguars because I don't know if Aiden O'Connell is starting yet. And even if he is, he does have a sore knee. He has a bone bruise in his leg. Outside of Bowers, and I guess you can count Myers because I know you like Myers a lot, they don't really have much to go with. I don't trust their run game because Sincere McCormick was going to be the only one to really get it moving. He's out for the rest of the year. They officially put him on IR in the middle of our last recording. So he's out. The best defensive players are out for the Raiders. So give me the Jaguars. I don't like this game at all. It's probably not going to be fun to watch, but I think the Jaguars have it.
I could see that game going either way. And, so that makes two differences. Will we have our third now? It's the 49ers at the Dolphins. And both of these teams are essentially out of playoff contention. They could claw. There's a theory that the 49ers could claw their way back in, but it's highly unlikely at this point, being 2 games out with 4 games left. With that being said, I believe that the 49ers still have a little bit more talent than the Dolphins. So go ahead and give me the 49ers in this matchup.
This is another matchup where it's a 1 point advantage and it's to the Dolphins at home. I don't see a real path for the 49ers to make the playoffs. The Dolphins are in the same boat as Cincinnati, that they could potentially squeak their way into playoffs with the Chargers if they lost out. But I think the Dolphins have more firepower on offense. I think the defenses are comparable. They're at home. I'm going to go the Dolphins on this one. I don't think that the 49ers are a good team anymore for this season. Neither team's really a good team, but I think the Dolphins have the best chance.
All right. So who did you pick on that one?
Miami.
Wow. I needed you to say that one more time out loud. I know how much you believe in Tua, so that one has to hurt.
I do not believe in Tua, but
you believe in him more than Purdy.
I believe in Waddle and Hill more than Jennings and Pearsall. I would really like to see Achane do something this season, but he's done absolutely nothing.
You forgot all about George Kittle that can take over a game.
I love George Kittle.
I know you do. He's your boy.
I just don't think the 49ers can survive all the injuries they've had. And their offense appears broken. Where their defense is the only thing keeping them in games right now.
Maybe Odell Beckham will sign there and help him.
Odell Beckham's done. Anyone signing him is signing him for the playbook at this point, which I don't even think that matters that much. Dolphins have played. But
that's true.
We've got 2 games left.
Sunday night football.
The Buccaneers at the Cowboys. This should have been a closer game, but the Cowboys season derailed too. I expect the Buccaneers to win this game. Cowboys may put up a token fight, may look closer on the scoreboard, but I think the Buccaneers should have it. They should have all 3 of their running backs this week. They surprisingly had Bucky Irving last week when we weren't sure he was going to be ready to go. I think Mike Evans likes to play well in Texas, so I expect Mike Evans to have a big game this week against the Cowboys.
No, I completely agree with that. I wonder if the Buccaneers will have an opportunity to rest Bucky Irving for a week here down the stretch, because I think that could make all the difference heading into the playoffs. The only question is, they're already done with the Falcons, so they would just have to pick either the Panthers game or the Saints game to potentially rest him. But I think that could go a long ways for their playoff hopes is just having him healthy.
Yeah, I think they should have a couple of Sean Tucker games. Like, give him some game experience, run him out there, protect Bucky Irving, because Bucky Irving is by far their best running back at this point.
Absolutely. And there still is a chance that the Buccaneers get Chris Godwin back for the playoffs. So be on the lookout for that one.
Okay. Now we just have the final matchup of the week. Saints at Packers. Should be pretty handily the Packers in this one. At this point, we're just looking for life in the Saints offense with Rattler. We're looking to see if Kamara even plays this week. We're looking to see if Kendre Miller can do anything. The Packers defense is reasonably good, not especially good, but reasonably good. I expect it to be a Jacobs game for the Packers as they just close the week out. It's a gamble with any of these wide receivers, so start them at your own risk. But I expect the Packers to win.
Yeah, I think that they're going to overwhelm Spencer Rattler in this matchup, and it's going to be sad because it's going to be his third start or his third game playing, and it's his third playoff team that he's playing against. So he cannot get an easy matchup.
All right. Well, I think that does it for this episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you all for downloading and listening to this episode. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please leave us a comment, share the show. Every little bit helps.
You can find us on all podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy and with our handle at N2E Fantasy on all social media platforms. Please join our community and give us a follow. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember, it's truly never too early for fantasy football. Thank you again.
Bye, everybody.